Okay, let's get started. So, hello and thank you very much for joining us on our latest webinar. I'm going to be recording today's session, so with a bit of luck, we'll be able to share with you what we've talked about today, and hopefully that will spark some ideas for you guys, and the information from today proves to be useful. And thank everybody who's on today as well, especially you guys from GivePenny. All this insight and information comes from a group of people, not just my brain. So thanks very much, everybody who's helped. So who are we? Who the hell am I? Well, I'm Lee Clark. I'm one of the founders and the CEO here at GivePenny, the connected giving platform. Before we go any further, let's do something fun, okay? So open the chat. I want you, given that this is a running-based webinar, I want you to name some of the worst songs you can think of to run to. Some of the worst songs to run to. I'll start us off while you're thinking about that and popping those tunes into the chat. I once agreed to run 53 miles in a month for a charity. I was asked who I thought were my friends to help build a playlist using GivePenny's playlist fundraising feature. Let's just say that by the middle of the month, running uphill to 9 Inch Nails and Radiohead was a challenge. And you can probably see on the slide as well. I had the Song and Everlong, nice choice, and Man or Muppet, karaoke version of a song as well to run to. So yeah, it wasn't fun. Some great choices coming through. I'm going to add these to the playlist, and at the end we'll send them out. So, what is connected giving? Well, connecting things closer together to create something that's greater than the sum of its parts is the ultimate goal. In the traditional online giving space, for 20 odd years, we've settled for just giving the fundraiser a way to be closer to their social media accounts, to drive donations to the charities they love. Hey, we now even live in a world where social media platforms encourage giving themselves as well, to great effect. Millions has been raised in short spaces of time. Connecting fundraising and social media really was just the beginning. Back in 2015, we created GivePenny, believing that connecting charities, fundraisers, and their donors closer to the activity they were using their apps for was going to be a big feature of philanthropy. Priming everything as if giving and a sense of being generous were the main reasons that people decide to take on a challenge was always a little bit backwards to me. There's a lot more going on in front of the donating bit. Whether it's running, cycling, baking, gaming, stepping, listening, sharing, it all matters to the fundraiser themselves as they're taking on their challenge. Now, we ask the fundamental question, how can we bring everyone closer together, connect them in deeper ways in order to fund fixing society's biggest problems that charities are formed to try to solve in the first place? And we believe the answer is connected giving, providing deeper visibility of what a fundraiser is up to, directly connecting donations to the activity that they're taking on, and celebrating the impact everyone involved is having. Building connections, connecting apps to fundraising, activity to donations, and charities to supporters. Now today, we're talking about how to help people training for events to raise more than they do just using the old ways. The runner signs up to take on a distance event. Now, you tell me if this experience, as I tell the story, if this sounds familiar to you. The runner or non-runner, they sign up to take on a discount on behalf of your charity, either inspired by a creative promotion that you've put together, or because they couldn't get a place directly, and the charity route is the only way to get to the start line. They launch their fundraising page and ride the wave of excitement in signing up and getting a place, sharing the link to their fundraising page with their social networks, friends, and family. Lots of one-off donations happen, and that's pretty much it for the early donors. That's their experience over in terms of connection to the actual running challenge itself. The fundraiser begins their training. They face early mornings, rain, wind, sometimes snow, lots of muscle ache, the odd minor injury. They sacrifice many pleasures along the way, and they do all of this quite often on their own. And then tumbleweed. The event is months away. There's nothing to worry about. Suddenly the event isn't months away. It's weeks away. It's in an effort to hit the high fundraising target set by the charity. They're encouraged to run quizzes, do bake sales, and everything in between. It's a Herculean effort of raising creativity that should be celebrated, but it has little to do with the actual running bit. Asking people to make one-off donations to the fundraising page, it gets a bit awkward after a time. I mean, how many times can you ask Auntie Maud if they'll donate to your page? The big day arrives. If it's a popular event, like the London Marathon, loads more donations roll in as the nation gets whipped into a frenzy of positivity, watching ordinary people push themselves live on the telly. If it's another third-party event, like a local 10K, after the fundraiser completes their run, they share a post on social and they get a few more donations in honor of the pain they must have gone through to justify posting a sweaty selfie on Facebook. We ask the question, how do we connect it all together in a better way? It's a peak and a trough, and then a peak, and it should be more consistent, and it should be something that, as an experience, keeps fundraisers more motivated. What can we do to bring the experience into the roaring 20s that, wake up, we're in the 20s? More on that in a little later though. But first, let's talk about running. You don't need me to tell you that running has exploded in popularity, right? I'm sure many of you have taken up running in this past year or used the lockdowns as the excuse to get back out there and pound the streets. It was already the most popular sport in England pre-COVID. Second was fitness classes, with 6.8 million people reporting as running at least twice in a given 28-day period in 2019. At the same time, between 2020 and now, what we've seen in the online fundraising space is a rapid increase in the availability of virtual running events. It's been met by an unprecedented enthusiasm to take part from the public, and millions has been raised as a result. Now, combining running with fundraising may actually be an idea as old as time itself. It's the good old faithful way to inspire people to raise money for good causes, isn't it? But now there's a massive opportunity here to combine everything we know about the challenges in just doing what we've always done. And what I mean by that is sticking to the old ways, and the lessons we've learned from a pandemic that's pushed us ahead digitally at breakneck speed, like Usain Bolt in his final 20 meters at 2012. So without further ado, let's get stuck into 6 tips from GivePenny to help you keep runners motivated to fundraise. Tip number 1, value running as a real world experience. There is no such thing as a virtual run. I said it out loud. When I go for a run, I go for a run. I don't plug into the matrix and then project a digital version of myself onto a running track and then go running. I actually run in the real world. It's just me. Whatever music's playing in my ears, whatever weather is happening, and my feet hitting the pavement. We need to be careful that we ensure that we build fundraising experiences that account for what is really going on, what it really feels like to go running, not how we might somehow transfer that into sort of digital experience, we can lean too heavily towards the digital part of the experience, or even lean too heavily into the cause side messaging. So talking about the charity and why people should take part, when really those elements should be treated as ways to augment the activity of running. The simple truth is that pulling people away from the activity of running itself will lead to less running, which will then lead to less fundraising. After all, if I'm not running very often, then why would people donate to my fundraising page? Another way to see it is that the online fundraising experience should be connected to the running, not the other way around, i.e. not connect raising. Tip number 2, harness the power of pledges. Who remembers sponsored swims at primary school? I do. I had a paper sponsorship form. I was getting neighbours to pledge 50p a width. I used to have to swim outside as well. I'm from Plymouth originally. If I've had a beer, it really comes out as an accent. I'm from Plymouth, and we used to swim in an outdoor swimming pool called Mount Wise, and it was right next to the sea. I swear that like they just waited for storms, and then when the waves broke on the outside of the pool, that they splashed over and it filled the pool. It was freezing, bone-chilling cold. So I remember those sponsored swims. So I remember collecting pledge donations, knocking on my neighbours' doors and all that kind of stuff, and then turning back up on their doorsteps with a wet towel rolled up under my hand, under my arm, along with a slightly soggy sponsorship form, demanding a £5 because I'd done 10 widths. The calls of, well done, here you go, and how emotionally rewarding that felt for both me and Frank from number 47 as the donor was not lost on me. And until now, we'd lost that deep connection in online fundraising in favour of speed and reliability. And it's raised billions for charities since, and that's great. But the concept of just processing donations against a digital version of a sponsor form was built in the 90s, when most people still didn't trust the internet with their card details. And if you think about it, that was also when Microsoft Encarta on a CD was mind-blowing. I mean, an encyclopedia on a CD, that's crazy, right? So note the power of pledges, especially as they're now back and in full effect on GivePenny. Earning donations on a per mile basis leads to an average of 30+% more in donations compared to just the normal one-off donations like we're all used to. It's leading to larger fundraising amounts overall, which can't be too much of a surprise as we're giving donors the chance to connect their donation to the actual activity. And in this case, that's running. So harness the power of pledges. Tip number 3, be present. It's obviously been impossible to be physically present to cheer on runners at events this past year, but we all know what impact has the levels, especially in mile 23 of a marathon or in the home straight of a 10K. A cheer of keep going or go on my son or nearly there goes a long, long way. In the lead up to an event, motivating people to go out running in the first place, then to keep them going while they're actually running, then to remind them why they are running, and then to motivate them to convert that into donations, that's hard, possibly impossible. You can't physically be alongside every runner every time they go running, can you? So what could you do to be present? Well-timed communications in the form of emails, messages, social media posts, they get you some of the way there, and that's common practice. But what about podcast episodes from you to listen to while running? Video calls or messages of heartfelt thank yous and putting on a physical finish line to a virtual marathon. Being present however you can will have a huge impact on the strength of motivation in your fundraisers. Tip number 4, bridge that fundraising gap between registering for an event and the day of the event itself. Just add to your fundraising page works but it does nothing to bridge the gap between registration and the day of the event itself, which is often months away. So what tools can we equip runners with to make it easier to ask for donations and more engaging for their friends and family as well? Personalized comms for participants. There's a difference between how much people raise if they're focused on what they are achieving individually versus when they are asked to focus on a collective goal, like let's all run and try to 1 million miles to represent 1 million people who need our help. You're much better off considering comms that focus on the individual achievement of the runner fundraiser. Well-timed comms aimed at the individual with the right theme, message. This leads to more consistent fundraising. Pledges, playlists, and milestones. During those comms journeys that you build, inspire runners to ask for donations in more creative and engaging ways. Earn donations for every mile tracked, or with moving, a feature on GivePenny, they could be sponsored for the amount of time they spend running, which makes it more inclusive. For every Spotify track added to their running playlist using playlist fundraising on GivePenny. And they can also earn donations once they reach set training milestones. Runners complete the milestone and then their friends and family are asked to donate as a result. Tip 5, little known fact, I once warmed up for Fatboy Slim as a DJ back in my 20s. He's very good at remixing classics. It's okay to remix a classic, but you've got to make it your own. Just copying what other charities have done can work. You can hit the bullseye, but the best campaigns, the ones that raise the most, the ones that win awards, the ones that you look back on and go, that's a career-defining moment for me, they have a sound foundation in planning, creativity, and personalization to your cause and to your supporters or your intended audience. Our common practices you should look to learn from. I mean, for example, incentives like t-shirts and medals, they work really, really well. Just ask Mind, you might actually be on the webinar today, who this year refined their 27/27 campaign with GivePenny and raised over £1 million, a lot more than they thought they'd raise. When you send swag, and on what basis you send the swag is more of a science than you'd think. There's also plenty of room out there for running challenges that aren't so athletic. Our team are on the hunt for a national charity partner to launch a new type of running experience we've already developed. We've done all of the ideation, the refinement, the growth strategy. It's just waiting there, just sat there waiting for the right partner to take it on. It's an experience that's built for everyone, not just your typical runners. So if you know of anybody who might be interested, who works for a national charity, they should get in touch with us because we have an idea sat there waiting that could really put the cat amongst the pigeons. So what's the lesson here? Spend more time than you think you need to on ideation, refinement, looking at concepts and on the plans for growth in both registrations and donation income. If you need external help, invest in it up front with a group of people that know what they're doing. We have our own front-end innovation team. There are plenty of other organizations that do similar things. Invest in it up front, spend more time than you think you need, and you'll have the great basis for launching a brilliant running fundraising product. And then tip number 6, mix it up and plan long-term. What you've always done, because you'll only get what you've always got, or worse than that. Pre-COVID, it was getting harder and harder to get people to sign up to events. It's like a dirty truth no one wants to admit. Now, no one knows how quickly we'll return to the kinds of crowds we're used to seeing, let alone how slowly enough people will feel confident in committing to doing stuff like this. I do think it's reasonable to assume that after an initial rosy period, as the world goes, we can do things again, as long as we've got the Bill Gates chip, it's going to get harder and harder to convince people to choose your cause and sign up to your running themed fundraising events. For a start, there'll be so many of them, whether that's traditional in-person events or virtual or hybrid, whatever the hell that means now. Be sure to set time aside each year to plan for the far future. Bank those ideas. Don't use all the best ideas in the first kind of set of changes that you make to the way that you get runners to fundraise for you. Bank some of them, even the left field ones. The running challenge that we've come up with that I mentioned earlier, that's based on a left field idea and have merit. You don't want to throw them all into one product in the first year. So bank some of the best ideas for year 2 and year 3. You need to make your experience, your running fundraising experience, you know, the fundraising experience that augments the running, you need to make that experience more attractive than all of the others. So no ideas should be left on the table, but definitely bank some for planning long term, if that makes sense. So what next? In the interests of information overload, I have made sure not to do a 2-hour PowerPoint presentation with you guys. But if you want to run through this with us, you see the pun? If you want to run through this kind of stuff with us, if you're an existing partner, get in contact with your partnerships manager. As you know, if you've worked with our partnerships management team, they are true rock stars. They are full of ideas and they can help you refine some of the stuff that you guys might have already thought about already. And if you're new to GivePenny, where have you been? Book a call with us. Head to home.givepenny.com/book a call with hyphens in between the words. And we'll be able to have a chat with you about how we might be able to help you. So, like I said earlier, we will be sharing the recording from this webinar today. So do feel free to give feedback and all that kind of stuff. And as my kids come back from school, hello, the realities of working from home, eh? It's without further ado that I say thank you for coming today. If you've got any questions, stick them in the chat. I'll stick around until you all go, so don't feel bad about leaving. But if you've got questions, stick around. I can activate your ability to talk to me directly as well if you want, so just let me know. You're welcome. Mount Wise is still open and still very cold. It is still very cold. I remember having to get changed in outside changing cubicles. It was horrible. You're welcome. Thanks, Naomi. Thanks, Aaron. It's normally where I make my joke about the post-credit scene that no one gets to see. You're welcome, Will. No problem. Okay, I'll end it there. Good. Thanks, guys.